the Torture Museum in Chicago, which was a pretty interesting site. You guys can check that out at your own leisure for the people that do tune in to watch this video. Um, but what I want to talk about today is I finally got my ID situation settled. Because what made being on the job hunt looking for a second job to make up some extra money, um, I had to turn down a lot of jobs because I didn't have the proper ID um, to for them to hire me. Because if I didn't have a valid ID, whether it be real ID, state ID, driver's license, permit, stuff like that, they couldn't take me. The jobs couldn't take me because the ID wasn't valid. So I had to turn down 4 jobs in the past couple of weeks due to the fact of me not having a license or state ID or driver or like a permit, anything like that, or whether the real ID, because real ID is going to be the one that you're going to need mainly if you plan on traveling to another state or out of the country. So last week I went to downtown Chicago because I needed to get it done, and I was in line for 7 hours. So I got stuck in Chicago from 10 in the morning in downtown Chicago on the loop end from 10 in the morning to like 8 o'clock at night, a little after. But I got my ID situation taken care of. It should be coming in a couple weeks. And I spent over $100 on that particular day alone just getting the ID. And then the problem that they had was because I didn't have the original birth certificate, I had to lose my spot online. So that I could run to the courthouse to get the original birth certificate because I didn't have the original one. And then eventually I did, but eventually they didn't. But what they failed to tell you is that when you do get your ID, it's like they don't tell you till the last minute that there's another possible DMV facility that's in the area. And right where I was stationed at, in that little center portion of the loop, there was another DMV off Monroe, 4 blocks from the one I was already at, off of Clark Street, and they didn't bother to tell us that it was 4 blocks away. So eventually, at like 4 o'clock, before they were getting ready to close, they closed at 5 on that particular day. So, and then at like 4 o'clock, the guy told us that that we're only taking 30 people to the Monroe location. He's like, if you don't want to wait in line at this Clark location, he said, you guys can follow me to the Monroe location and you can get your ID there. And so that's what I did. I went to Monroe. I went to the Monroe location and was out of the Monroe location in about 45 minutes. But something good came out of it. Because I eventually, after I got done with the ID, they told me it was going to take about 2 to 3 weeks to get it. And then so I stopped at the Torture Museum, and then last week I had potbellies for the first time because I've never had potbellies. They were okay, but it cost me an arm and a leg for the dinner for 3 items, $30-some fucking dollars. I'm like, really? I'm like, $30 fucking dollars for like 3 things. Another good thing is that my spring semester is finished with. I passed my class for the fluid power. This is hydraulics, and then there's another one for pneumatics. I passed with an 82%, which is not bad because 82% is pretty good. UPS is still on their bullshit by not giving people hours, and that shit's gonna have to end sometime soon because they need to give us back that for the part timers. They need to give them back the their hours that they need to be able to make way. Even though I'm due for my first raise in September, I'm not sure what that's going to be particularly because you never know what kind of raise you're going to get until it actually kicks in. It could be 50 cents, 75 cents, $1. Who the fuck knows? Because they fucking never really tell you. Now what's stupid is that UPS is bitching about how they don't have workers. I'm like, yeah, because you keep fucking laying the workers off. So how the fuck would you expect? What the fuck would you expect when you're laying off workers and you bitch about not having workers? It's like, yeah, so quit fucking laying people off. It's like, and then people are quitting because you guys are cutting back on hours, and that's also making it hard for the people that are still there, because, like for me, I'm still there because right now, I don't have another job lined up. I'm still with UPS because they're paying for my classes, but if it wasn't for the fact that they're doing that, I would walk off right now and go find another job. But but I'm stuck where I'm at right now because of me not having the hours that I have. So I'm stuck with either way. But I do have a couple of interviews coming up this week. Not for jobs that I particularly want, but sometimes you're desperate and you got to take something. Um, one of the jobs that I have a application in is for a restaurant, but it's like, but some of the restaurants out here, they're a little bit different because in Indiana, if you're like a busser or like a host, their pay in Indiana was $6 an hour, but you got tipped out. Out here in Illinois, it's $10 an hour if you were a host or a busser, but you would get tipped out. So it's like $4 more, but then tips are adding up on top of that. So that's a little bit better, $10, and then add tips on top of it. That's the thing with the restaurant that I have an interview with on Wednesday. They're $10 an hour plus tips for like a busser dishwasher. They're like a busser and hosting. Um, I also have an application at the airport for a couple of them. That depends on if I can get in. Doesn't mean I will, but airports pay pretty good money. Um, Also, pharmaceutical company in Rosemont, or I think it's Rosemont or Melrose. I put an application in for a pharmaceutical company. Um, like I said, there's like a whole bunch of different jobs. Like in the area where I live at, it's mainly all just warehouse jobs. Um, and warehouse jobs also pay pretty good money, depending on if they're full time. Basically, if they're full time, you get good hours. Um, Especially union. If you're a union worker, usually the unions fight for you, but obviously the union workers at UPS are not really showing that. Um, and you can also take a look at this. Um, this is from last week. This was my torture museum video, um, where it got 32 views last week, but that doesn't include any other views that were posted after that came up after it was posted. Like currently, top content in this past week, it got nine views. On top of them, even though it shows 107, but it's got like a 4% view ratio, um, which is okay but not great. But now yesterday, I was on my other channel, Rusty the King, which that one I particularly do more live stream. I do a lot of too, and that was and just off of one video, I got four subscribers, and my video yesterday was on the Impaler, um, and you could see right down there, I got that the Blood Impaler video got 246 views. Not bad. Obviously, that was one of my higher ranking videos. Um, Supposedly, UPS is supposed to be. Once I find it here. Yeah, right now I got a 1 month break before my next class starts from UPS. So I completed Fluid Power 1. The next class will be Fluid Power 2, which is the follow-up to Fluid Power 1. Like certain classes that UPS offers, you cannot, hold on here. Yeah, so certain classes you can't take unless you take the first one. So like you can't take Fluid Power, you can't take Fluid Power 2 without taking Fluid Power 1. You can't take Arc Welding 2 unless you do Arc Welding 1. You can't take some electrician class unless you do the first one. There's like a first one and second one for yeah, okay. Yep, so right here, UPS is cutting around 20,000 jobs amid the new or increased tariffs, and 73 buildings are set to close. There's one in Middleburg Heights. Middleburg Heights has announced that they're laying off 100 workers. Um, even Ohio a few days ago made comments about doing cuts. Just like in Wisconsin, UPS is to lay off 42 workers. Like I said, they're laying off thousands of workers for UPS, and that's because of Donald Trump's shitty tariffs. Yeah, I'm hoping that the one I work for doesn't close because that's the biggest one, and that's the one that needs a lot of workers. Let's see where this one's coming from. Okay, so here, this is what UPS claims. Now, the United Parcel Service, known as UPS, is expected to reduce its workforce by roughly 20,000 during the 2025 year, citing new or increased tariffs and changes in general due to the economic conditions in the U.S. or internationally for the cuts. So UPS announced the layoffs on April 29th in its first quarter earnings report, in which the parcel delivery service said it made consolidated revenues of $21.5 billion. Now UPS has enough money to keep these workers on, but they're just choosing not to. Compared to the $21.7 billion around the same time last year. The shipping company also said it would be closing roughly 73 facilities by the end of June. Consolidation efforts for UPS come as the current squatter Donald Trump's looming tariffs continue to impact the U.S. and global trade, as companies across the country are reducing cost and preparation for a possible economic fallout. But in 2024, UPS employed around 490,000 people worldwide, including about 330,000 Teamsters represented jobs in the U.S. For me, I'm in the union for UPS, so it's not bad. It's just that I wish there were hours to give. Now, the actions we are taking to reconfigure our network and reduce costs across our business could not be timelier, said Carol May, who's the CEO of UPS. Now, the macro environment may be uncertain, but with our actions, we will emerge as an even stronger, more nimble UPS company. For UPS specifically, it cautioned back in January that it was expediting its plan to reduce millions of deliveries for its largest customer, Amazon.com, which accounted for 12% of its overall revenue in 2024. CNBC reported. Now, we are reducing the amount of volume that we deliver for Amazon by more than 50%, but by June of 2026, Brian Dykes, who's the UPS's chief financial officer, said in a statement to USA Today, associated with this volume reduction, we are undertaking the largest network reconfiguration in our history. Now, this effort has been combined with our Network of the Future initiative, as both will help drive us to a more efficient network. Now, the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, who's known to lie for Trump because, that's just how she is, lashed out at Amazon after reports said the e-commerce giant was planning to list the cost of Trump's tariffs next to a total price of products, which Leavitt called a hostile and political act while speaking to reporters on April 29th. No, that's just the truth of basically of the stupid shit he's going to plan on doing. According to the one guy Dykes, UPS's planned reductions are in line with the total Amazon volume decline. Now, UPS is announcing to close 73 locations, if not more. Now, in addition to the position cuts, UPS said It plans to close 73 leased and owned buildings by the end of June of 2025. Now, according to the earnings report, Dyke and a UPS spokesperson said the company would be eliminating shifts involved with the movement of packages. Now UPS has 4 shifts that you can work. Sunrise, which is what I work. Sunrise is usually 4 in the morning to about 9 at night, to about 4 to 9 in the morning. And then you got day sort, which runs between 9:30 and 10 in the morning, and they're out by 2 or 3. And then you got twilight and night sort. So now the building closures will consist of facilities that are part of UPS's U.S. ground operation, where packages are unloaded, sorted, and loaded. A spokesperson told USA Today. Now we are continuing to review the network and may identify additional buildings for closure, the Atlanta-based parcel delivery service said. Now, UPS claims that the job cuts and building closures are expected to save $3.5 billion in 2025, but the earnings report says UPS consolidation and cost-saving initiative, the network reconfiguration efficiency reimagined. Now, it's expected to end in 2027, according to the parcel delivery service. Now, the employees are extremely important to us. Yeah, but you're not really showing that. And we understand the impact that this may have on them and their families. Karen Hill said, who's a UPS spokesperson, told USA Today. We are working to place as many employees as possible in other positions, but we will work with those who may be impacted through the process to provide any support. Now, UPS is the world's largest package delivery firm, and it forecasted in January a full year revenue. It forecasted in January a full year revenue of $89 billion. CNBC reported. Now, back in 2024, UPS did announce that they laid off 12,000 workers back in 2024. So in January of 2024, UPS announced that they had laid off nearly 12,000 employees across the globe to align resources for 2024. Now, during a company earnings call at the time, Carol Toomey said that the cuts would save the company nearly $1 billion. But their comments came after UPS underwent a massive year-over-year decline in revenue. But basically, Tomei said that they wanted to thank the UPSers for providing the best on-time performance of any carrier for the 6th year in a row. Tomei said in a statement released by the company in 2024, 2023 was a unique and difficult year, and through it all, we remained focused on controlling what we could control. We stayed on strategy and strengthened our foundation for future growth endeavors. Pennsylvania has said that they're closing 3 of their locations. Okay, so let's continue on with another UPS story here. United Parcel Service has said, like I said, they're cutting 20,000 jobs and shutting 73 buildings down, as UPS highlighted that a highly uncertainty of trading environment in which it is now operating. Now, however, the company said that the decision was driven by the increasing automation of its production facilities, as well as a decline in shipping volume due to its Amazon glide down plan, and that was unveiled in late January. But here's why it matters and what we should know about it. UPS is the largest courier in the U.S. and it ranks among the country's top companies by revenue, having generated $91 billion last year alone. As a major player in the global logistics industry, the company said that the administration's trade policies will demand greater adaptability and strategic oversight in the near future, but that it remains confident in its ability to navigate the evolving conditions that keep cropping up. Now, here's what we should know. The announcement came alongside the release of the company's first quarter earnings. UPS saw a consolidated revenue of $21.5 billion, which is down from $21.7 billion a year ago. Now, in the release and subsequent earnings call, UPS executives gave several reasons for the decision to shut down 73 of the U.S. buildings for UPS and laying off the 20,000 workers, which is in addition to the 12,000 that it said it would be cutting last year. So basically they laid off 32,000 workers in the last year alone, which is not really good on them because they need workers and they're laying off workers left and right, and then they bitch about how they don't have enough workers to do the job. The company said that the latest movements had comprised part of its ongoing network reconfiguration and efficiency reimagined initiative, and it was aimed at streamlining the business through automation process and operational sort consolidation in our U.S. Domestic network. Now, UPS said that it expects this to result in a $3.5 billion of total cost savings in 2025. Now, who knows if that's true or not? But we'll figure that out following the years as it goes down. And this is already May, so this is already 5 months into the new year. And who knows what they fucked up on and if it's going to get any worse. Now, in a call following the results, Executive Vice President Nando Cesarone said that UPS plans to incorporate automation across its facilities, with 400 becoming partially or fully automated by the end of this process. Now, this, alongside the application of artificial intelligence, will result in a much more efficient operation with less dependency on labor, Cesarone said. Now, Chief Financial Officer Brian Dykes added that the planned layoffs and building closures were in line with the total Amazon volume decline. Now, in January, UPS announced a glide-down plan to cut transported order volumes with the e-commerce giant more than 50% by the second half of 2026. Now, during the first quarter, Dykes said that package volume from Amazon had already declined by 16%, adding that this was more than we originally planned. Now, However, CEO Carol Toomey added 16% of the volume that we're gliding down is not profitable for us, and by gliding that down, we actually give ourselves financial flexibility to adjust other scenarios that might come our way. Now, while the company did not attribute the layoffs to our business closures to tariffs directly, which more than likely it is, Tomei said that the need for adaptability and efficiency has been heightened by the administration's shitty trade policies. Now, U.S.-China trade deadlines had compromised around 11% revenue back in 2024, the company said, but making it the UPS's most profitable trading route. However, it expects any weakening demand due to the high tariffs on China to be partially offset by growth in China to non-U.S. lanes, as well as more goods being shipped to the U.S. from other countries. Now, here's what people are saying about it. Now, and of course, I'm not happy with all those changes and the shit that are happening right now with UPS. Now, UPS CFO, Chief Financial Officer Brian Dykes, said during Tuesday's earnings call that the macro environment is highly uncertain due to the changing shitty trade policies and shitty trade tariffs uncertainty. Now, as a global carrier, the eventual outcomes could result in pressure in some parts of our business and create new opportunities in others. Now we've modeled several different scenarios for how the balance of the year might play out so that we can quickly pivot and continue supporting the customers and lean into growth. Now, Now, UPS CEO Carol Tomei said that many of the company's small and medium-sized business customers are 100% single sourced from China, and that the 145% tariffs on Chinese goods was causing so much uncertainty in the marketplace. Um, Now, Carol Tomei said if you go back to 2018, when China tariffs were imposed, we saw trade move. China to U.S. decline, but China and the rest of the world increased, and it all leveled out, and our international businesses actually grew. Tomei said so because of our integrated network and our global presence, we'll be able to manage through this. Um, um, now, now the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, which helps um, which helps which works alongside the UPS, said that the International Brotherhood of Teamsters is a labor union representing an estimated 300,000 plus UPS hourly workers, and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters said in a statement to the layoff announcement that the United Postal Service is contractually obligated to create 30,000 Teamster jobs under a current national master agreement. That contract runs up until 2028 before they have to create a new one. They run every 5 years, and then every 5 years they create a new one. Um, so if UPS wants to continue to downsize corporate management, the Teamsters won't stand in its way. But if the company intends to violate the contract or makes any attempt to go after the hard fought, good paying Teamster jobs, UPS will be in for one hell of a fucking fight. Um, Now what's going to happen next? Um, UPS um, has said that the layoffs would take place over the course of 2025, while the 73 buildings were scheduled for closure by June. Um, we are continuing to review our network and may identify additional buildings for closure, it added. But CEO Carol Tomei said that UPS would not be updating its full year outlook given today's level of uncertainty. Um, Now, once we are through the second quarter, we will hopefully have more clarity about tariffs and trade and the implications of demand dynamics, and we will provide an update at that point. Um, but CFO Brian Dyke said that the international revenue is expected to fall around 2% from 2024 due to its lower demand-related surcharges and trade uncertainty. Um, but like I said, they're going to keep closing. And obviously, it's going to hurt them when they keep laying off workers because they bitch about how they don't have workers now. And if you keep laying off workers, you're definitely not going to have anybody. Um, I had to cancel my one bank card. Somebody hacked it the other day. Pisses me off because I try to save money, and I can't do it if somebody keeps hacking my bank account card. This is the second time already that I had to get a bank card, another bank card due to somebody hacking the last one. Um, okay, let's go with another UPS story here. This one is um, as we did state that UPS is laying off 20,000 workers and reduce the amount of volume that they deliver for Amazon by more than 50% by June 2026. Amazon and FedEx are one of the two biggest supply is one of the biggest yeah, because UPS has a lot of packages that come through, whether it be from Amazon, FedEx, or there's another one too. I forget the other one, um, or the or the mail carrier store, the USPS. Um, These restructuring marks what the company describes as the largest network reconfiguration in its history. Now, UPS currently has around 490,000 plus employees operating in more than 200 countries. The layoffs would impact a little more than 4% of its workforce. Um, Now, we're sure that Amazon suppliers and the business that they work with are probably bracing for something like this to happen. Said Thomas Lambert, who's an economics professor at the University of Louisville. Um, Now, in addition to the job cuts, UPS intends to close 73 buildings by the end of June of 2025, and that it may target additional buildings for closure as part of a consolidation plan that's expected to save them $3.5 billion if it does at all. Who knows? Um, Now, however, Lambert says that these changes could have a ripple effect on other businesses connected with UPS who does business with them, who do because there's other jobs that do businesses with them, like FedEx, Amazon. Um, a lot of doctors do businesses with them by shipping parts. Um, Now, for every job lost, going back to UPS, 20,000 jobs lost are what you have nationally. That's probably would be at least another 10,000 jobs lost in the economy," said Lambert. Now, UPS employs approximately 26,000 people in the Louisville, Kentucky area. But Teamsters 89 says at this time none of the UPS locations in Louisville will be affected by the planned closures that they know of as of right now. And who knows, they could be closing them down. You don't know. Um, Now, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters released a statement stating the following: UPS is obligated to create 30,000 Teamster jobs under the current agreement that they have now for the contract agreement. If the company makes any attempt to violate that contract, UPS will be in for a hell of a fight. Lambert says that these developments are likely part of a broader economic shift. Um, Now, everything from what we're seeing and reading is that we're headed towards a recession because of Trump. Um, Lambert said, and we're probably headed towards a downturn. And many of these large corporations, they use it as an opportunity for restructuring. Now, UPS says that while its building footprint is changing, its record of reliable pickup and delivery is not. Um, and it just keeps getting worse from here. Yeah. So my next class for college won't start to June 9th, so that gives me 1 month to try to save up as much money as I can to get my books and everything else like that for my next class. Um, Now, when they talk about layoffs, I don't know if you guys consider layoffs to be a form of being fired or just being laid off in general. Some people consider being laid off as a firing, but not always the case either. Um, it states here on this article that UPS is um is firing 20,000 workers, but it's not for the reason you think. Now, I don't know what they mean by that, but let's go into this. Um, Now, United Postal Service earnings were a relief for investors, but still they would like more clarity amid the ongoing tariff uncertainty. But one thing is certain, like UPS has already stated that they're laying off as many workers as they can find, as they can, whether it be for a bullshit reason. Um, Now, UPS expects to reduce its workforce by 20,000 employees, and close 73 buildings and lease their own buildings, that is, by the end of June. Now, the cuts are part of UPS's Network of the Future initiative. They, like I said, they claim it's going to save them $3.5 billion, but I don't think it will. The cuts seem to have more to do with Amazon than the economy. Um, with the fourth quarter earning reports, UPS said it was shutting down some business from the e-commerce company, and that scared investors. And shares dropped 14% after the first quarter reports. Amazon amounted to more than 10% of UPS sales in 2024, and but it is less a profitable business than average. And UPS goal is addition by subtraction. The Amazon volume is not profitable for them, nor a healthy fit for our network, said CEO Carol Tremay on her company's earnings conference call. Um, now, um, now the math seems to be working. Tuesday morning, UPS reported adjusted first quarter earnings per share of $1.49 on sales of $21.5 billion. Now, Wall Street was looking for earnings per share of 1.38 on a revenue of $21 billion, but according to a FactSet poll a year ago, UPS reported earnings per share of $1.43 on sales of $21.7 billion. Um, Now, UPS stock was up early, but gave back gains. But gave back gains after the open. Shares closed down about 0.4%, while the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average rose about 0.6% and 8% and 0.8% respectively. Now, and Toomey said that she wanted to thank all the UPSers for their hard work and efforts in this very dynamic environment. Um, we will leverage our integrated network and trade expertise to assist our customers as they adapt to a changing trade environment. Now, further, the actions we are taking to reconfigure our network and reduce costs across our business could not be timelier. Um, a lot is changing amid the escalation of tariff rates, which can throw cold water on global trade. Now, UPS added in its release that it is not providing any updates to its previously issued consolidated full-year outlook. Now, in January, UPS management said it expected full-year sales to be about $89 billion, and operating profit to be about $9.6 billion. At the time of the reports, Wall Street was looking for closure to $95 billion in sales and $10 billion in operating profit. Um, Now, not providing is a way around pulling or suspending guidance. General Motors said that Tuesday that its guidance should no longer be relied on. For the second quarter, UPS expects average daily volume to drop about 9% per year, year over year, and revenue to fall to low single digits. Now that implies the sales of about 21 billion, close to Wall Street's current projection. Um, now, Now in the U.S., Tomei has said that they've talked with the top 100 customers who order through UPS, whether it be business or just random people, to understand how their business is being impacted directly, and is being impacted directly or indirectly by changes in Trump's shitty trade policies. These customers have told us that they are exploring various options to adjust the shitty tariffs from absorbing the cost to pushing them into retail prices to asking suppliers to help defray the expense. Now, There is a lot for investors to think about coming into Tuesday's trading. UPS stock was down 23%, 23% year to date, partly reflecting the uncertainty surrounding the company. Um, Now, with me, um, the one good thing I can say about UPS is that they will pay for your college courses, which is why I'm there. Um, with me finishing my first class here, I will start my next class on June 9th for the second one, Fluid Power 2. And once I complete all 11 classes, then I will be a certified plant engineer. Um, Once I complete all the classes, and plant engineers make good money. They make about 150,000 something dollars a year, around there, maybe give or take, and that's not bad because that's pretty good money. Um, one of the things I do that I am looking forward to when I can get into it is the welding class, because if the plant engineer job does not do well for me, you could still fall back on welding, and you don't necessarily need a plant engineering degree to do welding. You could be a welder anywhere without the plant engineering degree if you decide to go that route. Um, I took the plant engineering courses because it seems interesting to me to learn, and if you want to advance your career. Um, so let me get something here for a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. Oh, here we go. Now this right here will tell you all the classes you would need if you were ever to stick out and write out the plant engineering courses. So I just completed Fluid Power IMM 120. That's their book course. So the next one would be Fluid Power 2 IMM 220. Um, Now that so the Fluid Power class the Fluid Power 1 was my first class. My second class would be Fluid Power 2, and then there's still 9 more after that to complete. The other classes will be Electricity and Electronics, 1 and 2, Industrial Controls, um, Advanced Industrial Controls. There's Industrial Controls and Advanced Industrial Controls. Then you have Introduction to PLCs, Mechanical Systems 1 and 2. And then you got Basic Arc Welding 1 and 2, and machine moving and setup. Those are the classes I gotta all take for a plant engineering degree, or whether you do a certificate or not. You can do a certificate or a degree. It doesn't matter which one. You'll make more money with the degree than you would a certificate. So if you did the certificate, you're looking at about 40 something dollars an hour, but if you do the degree, you're looking at about $55 an hour, give or take. Um, Now, for the people, even though you guys might not work for UPS, what do you think about the bullshit that UPS is doing? Do you agree with it or do you not? I'm for one, I don't agree with it, with the bullshit they're doing, because they're gonna force a lot of people to quit anyway due to the bullshit that they're doing anyway. Um, now the full time workers are not really affected by this because the full time workers, they've been there for so long. Um, they're not going to be affected by the layoffs because they're going to bump a lot of the part timers out of their job. Um, Now, if you're a part time worker and you average about 25 hours a week at UPS, which is about average for a part time worker, you're looking at about a $450 paycheck. Now, if you're a full timer who gets about 45 hours, your checks are about $1,200, which is a little bit better. But if you're full time, but it takes years. UPS is such a fucking backlog on full time workers for people that are applying to full time that you could be waiting 20 something years before you ever get full time at all at UPS if you're a part time worker. Um, like for me, I've only been there 8 months, so I got a long time of waiting before I can even get full time if I choose to go that route. Um, Good thing is we are pushing close to 500 subscribers. I'm sitting at 465. Not bad. Um, they've been doing a lot of trade. They've been doing a lot of switching around with YouTube videos and stuff like that. Basically stating that you gotta have a certain amount of subscribers to have to get monetized on YouTube, and then you have to have a certain amount of views, and then and stuff like that, and then something about putting ads in your videos to be able to get money that way, shit like that. Um, but I will say this: there's a comedic guy that I watch on YouTube named Andrew Joseph Duffer. He had disappeared from YouTube about a couple years ago, because he wasn't liking the way that YouTube was treating him, because with him being gay and stuff like that, it was like he wasn't happy about the way he was treated, so he took about a couple years off from and now he's back. And I'm like, if you ever want to decide to watch him, he's funny as hell. Um, Even for a gay guy, he makes a lot of wisecracks. Um, so, but I'm actually glad Andrew Joseph Dubber's back. But like I said, if you want to check out either this channel, which is RVW King, or check out my other YouTube channel, Rusty the King, you'll see a lot of interesting videos on there for both channels. Um, and I can't believe this is already May. One more month until my birthday, which is in June, and I'm getting fucking old. I'm gonna be 37. Um, I know. I'm gonna try. And usually I don't like working my birthday, but more than likely this year, because I'm desperate, I'm gonna have to probably work it because I need the money. Um, I don't think. Let me see here. Close that out. I don't need that up there right now. Since my college classes are done for right now, I don't need any of the college course stuff open right now. But and you'll see how bad this is hurting me once I get in to let's see here. Sometimes this stuff will be annoying as hell trying to get in. Um, we need this one. You could do a text or a call. I would rather do the text. Okay, I think that's set. Now, if you want to check your pay on here, UPS actually does have a portal site where you can check your pay. There's a thing on here called My Time, Workday. I would rather do My Time. That's your time card viewer. On here, so this is what's pissing me off here, and you can see this. So right here, they've been pissing me off by scheduling me off for Thursdays and Fridays. Technically, when I got hired in at UPS, I was guaranteed 5 days a week, and they've been fucking pissing me off and fucking me over by not giving me the hours that I need. And so it tells you on here what your pay is supposed to be. It's not showing it on here, but yeah. But so right here it's been telling me the hours I've worked, and so I got it's technically supposed to tell you on here what your gross pay was for that day, but it's not really showing. On a computer, it's not really showing it like it's supposed to be. So Um, yeah, it's not really updated right here. Um, I think it's this one. Let me see. Um, there's a thing on here that tells you like how you can do it. Um, or yeah, like I said, this is not really making people happy. Because lately, with the bullshit that UPS is on, um, with the least amount of seniority workers like me, because I got the least amount of seniority in my outbound. Um, with me only being there 8 months, they forced me to have Thursday Friday off when I told them no, and because even though I told them no, they didn't give a shit. Um, so I basically got dropped down from making 450 to somewhere. So I was making $450 a week on the 25 hours I was first doing, but because they dropped me from 5 to 3 days and barely 14 hours, I'm barely getting by with $200. That's why I'm so adamant about looking for a second job to make up for the money because of the bullshit that they're doing. Um, I just keep checking my emails to see if any jobs get back to me. They either do or they don't, and there's no guarantee. Um, so let's go to view paycheck here. Um, so this week alone is the May 9th one, and this is how sad it is. You could see on here, um, my paycheck was $145 because of this fucking 3 days a week bullshit. Um, Now, if I had my 5 days a week, like I said, and my 25 hours, you're cutting in at about $400, which wouldn't be as bad if I still had my 25 hours. Um, Now let's go back um, to the last paycheck that I had a few weeks back, about a month ago, and you can see the difference and how badly it is. This one right here, this was the April 12th check that I got on April 11th. This one was $343. Now you see the difference, and that was for 21 hours. They do take out a lot of taxes for like union. They take out union dues, um, and stuff like that. And this is why a lot of people aren't happy with this bullshit, because they keep cutting back on people's hours, and then they wonder why they can't keep nobody. Um, it's because of this bullshit they're pulling. Um, but that is pretty much all for today. Um, I will be back hopefully next week with some more interesting news, give or take, depending on how things go. There's no guarantee that anything's going to be good or not. I'm just hoping that stuff will turn out better in my situation, and hopefully I'll land another job by in the next week or two that pays better, and hopefully it be full time, whether hopefully 40 hours or more, because that's what I need right now is $40 or more. I'm also gonna try to get my hair cut to look more presentable for any of these jobs that contact me back. Hell, look at my hair; it's getting already long, and it's going into my face. Like it's getting into my face, and it's annoying the shit out of me. Um, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos like this. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little, if you watch the video, your donation can help go a long way. And thanks for listening.